Hello there, I'm Jonathan Ross from Ross Search Consulting, and we've just had a great session this morning at the launch event for the Business Forum Digital Transformation Networking Group. And I'm joined by Andrew Grill from IBM. Andrew is our guest speaker this morning. And so very briefly, Andrew is a global managing partner for digital and for social. And a great talk this morning about digital disruption. So I think you disrupted us this morning, Andrew.
Well, we talked about, your group's called the Transformation Group, which I think is the right way to talk about it because we are transforming a business. It's transformational, it's not just digital. But what I did was actually talk about the notion that you're being disrupted. And the message I hope people went away with is that you have to disrupt yourself. Because if you're set in your own mindset, your own ways of doing things, these other competitors will come in and nip at your heels.
Yeah.
The reason that the Ubers, the Airbnbs have been successful is they haven't had the legacy. And so I think everyone there in the room are from more traditional businesses. I hope they walked away with a sense of next Monday in the staff meeting, what are the difficult questions they have to start addressing about how they disrupt themselves.
So how would, if somebody said to you, as CEO of an organisation said to you, Andrew, how do I go about that? How do they actually go about putting a plan together?
Well, I think you need to almost ring fence some resources. You need to have a group that's going to look at this in almost stealth mode. You can't have people doing their day job and also transforming the business. But I think that's a very transitional approach. You actually need people integrated with the business. So if you're looking to transform a process, you can't do it in isolation. But you need to give them the leeway, you need to give them the budget, and they need to be given permission to act in a very agile way. We talk about agile software methodology where you do things very quickly. You can also have agile methodology in the way you work. And we talked also about collaboration. At IBM, we work out loud. And so my colleagues, we know what we're doing because we tell each other on our internal social network. And that means that not just my team can understand what we're doing and the benefits, anyone in our organisation can have the benefit. And I think some of those topics were quite disruptive and quite confrontational for the group this morning because they're not doing that. And I'm hoping that they'll walk away with a plan to start disrupting their own business.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of Agile, I guess, and disruption, I guess the key thing is for organisations not to be afraid of failure. And if they are going to fail fast, move on.
That's the whole nature of Agile, that you actually have a 2-week sprint or a 3-week sprint. At the end of that, you either have developed the piece of software or code or process you needed to, or you haven't, and you work out why. To your point, you then lose just 2 weeks, not 2 years, waiting for all the processes to align before you can actually get something developed and delivered.
Absolutely, in which case your competitor may well be ahead of you.
They are running Agile.
Yeah.
The startups of today and these disruptive companies are all running Agile.
So what would you say to a CEO who said, Andrew, great, I'm very interested in this digital stuff, but you know what, that's an IT department thing. I don't really want to get involved in that. And so we just shove it over to our IT director and he can deal with all this digital stuff. What would your response be to
We need to take the technology out of it, which means it isn't the IT's department's responsibility. It's everyone's responsibility. It's someone in payroll, it's someone in recruitment, it's someone in marketing. It is the employees themselves who become advocates for the organisation and disrupt the way you would do marketing or the way you do recruitment. You're in recruitment, your industry is being disrupted. No longer do you post an ad and hope someone applies for it. You go scouting for them on LinkedIn. If they're smart, digitally savvy, they will make themselves visible to you using digital methods. You might explain how we actually met, how I disrupted the whole process of meeting someone like you.
Well, absolutely, yes. It was very interesting, wasn't it, that I posted an article on LinkedIn about digital transformation. You liked it, we connected on LinkedIn, then I stalked you on Twitter, you stalked me back, and then it became very evident to be a good idea for you and I to meet up and have a coffee, which has brought us all together. And that's key, isn't it, in terms of the way business is moving forward. There are millions of transactions similar to ours that are taking place every day across the web. In terms of actually making digital work, then presumably your thoughts would be, well, it's got to start at board level. We've got to have people on boards that are digitally savvy. And of course, that must be very, very difficult for many more traditional industries.
Yeah, this morning I was talking about a thing called digital diversity. We talk a lot about board construction, we talk about gender and ethnicity. We're having a representation of society as it is today, and I'm a full advocate for that. But we also need diversity of thought. And so what I was talking about this morning is having not one but 2 digital non-exec directors. Why 2? If you have one, then they become the digital guy or gal, and they're only the digital people. What do they know? If you have people that are non-exec directors that could stand on their own 2 feet on a board, they've run on boards before, they know about governance and all those sort of processes, but they see the company through a digital lens. I think this is critical because they will ask the hard questions and they will map technology, culture, people, discussions to what's happening digitally. And what I've seen happen when you do this is you educate the board and they become digital, and then they start asking those questions and they work in an agile way. And then when the IT people come and say, we've already been working agile for a while, the board gets it. So it is a journey, and I think you've got to take the board along the journey as well, but it's got to start at the top. And mark my words, in my own organisation we've seen this, when the top talent, when the top table starts doing it, everyone follows.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting. And also, we talked earlier on about it not just being technology, it's all about the people, it's about people change, it's about the culture of the organisation. Yeah. So what are your views in terms of how to actually change a culture to be more digitally centric?
It's not easy, and I do this all the time. I do this for a living, going in and telling people they need to change the culture and saying it's going to be a journey. It's not a 2-week thing. It's not even a 2-year thing. It happens over time. But I think it happens generationally as well. You've got new talent coming into the organisation that at the early start of their career, we call them the born digital. You've got people that have been in the organisation for a while that are going digital. And I talked this morning about there being 2 tribes, and the 2 tribes working together to actually pull each other along. But I think it's essential that you actually have a culture that is allowed to be changed. If you just say we've done it the same way, it's never going to work. And that's why at the top table, if they're saying that we're going to change this culture, you then attract better, smarter people into your organisation.
Yeah, and that's the key thing, isn't it?
And digital becomes the enabler rather than it's a digital culture. It's a culture that is transformed as a result of digital transformation.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's the key thing to attracting the quality individuals, because they're going to look around the business and say, well, who am I going to learn from? Who am I going to develop from?
They will meet you before you meet them. I know that before I go and speak at a conference like yours or go and speak with a client, I ask them, what's the first thing you did when you saw my name on the meeting invitation? We put your name into Google. Yeah. So they've already met me before I've met them. Yeah. So their first impression is a digital first impression, not just of me as a person, but also of my organisation. So a cultural change is then allowing people to have that digital first impression. Yeah. One of the people in the audience this morning said he was from an engineering firm and they're very much old school. And I respect that, but when their younger, more agile competition wins more and more work, and they do a win-loss analysis and they work out that it was because of their digital first impression that got them the gig, they're then going to say, okay, we need to do something, we're losing business now. Yeah. That's a key imperative. What do you say to companies who say, well, Andrew, look, we think we are on the digital journey, but we don't really know where we are on that digital journey. We don't know whether we're at the start or in the middle, and also we don't know where the end is. Yeah. What would your response be to that? There is no end. I mean, I talked this morning about these nomenclatures. We call things social media or digital transformation. It's media and it's transformation. Yeah. Those names at the front are not time stamped. I would say this because I'm a consultant, but you've got to get someone external to look at your business. And it may not be an IBM, it may not be you're paying a lot of money, it might just be you get a trusted advisor, or you get someone on your board who doesn't know the firm intimately and can actually hold a digital mirror up to your organisation to see where you're at. Right. And I think you can do that fairly easily, but it's very hard to analyse your digital maturity from within. I think it relies on someone else coming in and looking at that through consultants or having other people look at you, or look at your competitors. Where are they compared to you? Yeah. Simple things like, well, how many digital directors do you have? None, and they have 3. Okay, that's the difference. Do we have a single view of customer or only patchy views of the customer? Well, you can almost work on a scale of where you are. Yeah. Interesting, absolutely. And of course the ROI argument comes into play as well. A board will think, okay, that's terrific, we need to invest in digital. How much do we invest and what will the return on investment be? How long is a piece of string? Let me answer this in a different way. If 20 years ago I said to you, everyone's going to connect on this thing called the internet, we're going to do our banking on our mobile phones, and we'll be able to do any transaction, we'll be able to choose an airline seat or a hotel room from a device wherever we are in the world, you would have said you're bonkers. Slowly, 15 years ago, clients would say to me, do we need to be online? Do we need to have a web presence? Yeah. We kind of know how the story ends.
Yeah.
So the ROI question, that's a very simplistic answer, but you look at these other firms that have grown from nothing. I mean, the Ubers, the Airbnbs are almost 10 years old now. They've been going for a while, and only the last few years have they've really grown, and they've grown from nothing.
Yeah.
And they are now taking down whole industries.
Yeah.
They're taking down whole government legislation.
Yeah.
This is big stuff. This is not just in one city. The Uber effect and the Airbnb effect, look at London. In London, London cabs now all accept credit card. I can remember 5 years ago wanting to pay by credit card, having to wait for 7 or 8 taxis to go past, only to find, oh, sorry, mate, the machine's broken. Now, they proudly claim we take all credit cards.
Yeah.
Why? Because the competition offered a superior service.
Yes,
so if I was the boss of the London Cab Association, I would look at what the competition's doing and what consumers are demanding to know where I am in the digital maturity scale.
And also on that point, the main drivers of profit on the US stock market are the technology companies. It's the Facebooks, it's the Googles.
They don't have physical inventory. I mean, you look at a Hilton hotel versus an Airbnb. Who owns physical inventory?
Yeah.
It's very hard to do that. Here's another bellwether, John Lewis, the sort of bellwether of the high street. Every January they announce what their partners are receiving as a bonus. Even 3 years ago, I think it was 14 or 15%. What was it this year? 6%. The reason being they are being massively hit on the high street by digital purchases.
Right.
Some are buying from John Lewis online, and that is a multi-billion-pound business. But they're going elsewhere because they can.
Yeah.
And so when you see the John Lewis effect of only getting 6% bonus rather than 15%, that's got to tell the retail sector times are tough.
Yes. Yeah, and customer experience is absolutely key, the front end of the business. Yeah. But also, of course, there's the back end of the business as well, which is important in terms of cost, driving down cost, which is going to be inevitable in the next few years. Do you have any views on how to drive down costs?
We're seeing cloud being a major driver in terms of how you can reduce costs, because sharing infrastructure by being able to spin up instances when you need it. Gone are the days where you need to say, okay, for the next 3 years, this is how many servers I need and how many data centers I need. With the IBM cloud and other clouds, you're actually able to spin up a business in real time. We bought the weather company a few years ago. That is one of the world's largest distributed network. We've got hundreds of thousands of sensors telling us weather information all around the world, and that all gets pulled together. That business couldn't run without the cloud. I mean, in any weather event, if there's a massive snowstorm and all these sensors are sending all these signals, how do you all of a sudden, oh, can I have some more servers plugged in tomorrow? Maybe Wednesday at the latest? No, you just spin it up out of nowhere. So businesses can now use the cloud to spin up a business overnight.
So, Andrew, you're a practical futurist. Tell me more about that.
I deliberately style myself as a practical futurist because there are lots of futurists out there and they're fantastic, but they tell us what's happening in 10, 15, 20 years' time. The people in front of me don't have that amount of time. They want to know what is happening on Monday morning or the next quarter. And so a practical futurist, I believe, actually looks at things they can do next Monday. So I implored the team from this morning, next Monday or the next time they have a team meeting, disrupt the meeting by going, hang on, what are we doing about digital? And the question might be, well, where do we start? What are some simple things you can do? First of all, you've got to have a digital mindset. So look at parts of your business that are fractured, or even as a user yourself of your services, you're a bit frustrated, and see how they can be digitised. Secondly, set aside a budget. Stop doing something and actually say we're going to apportion some of that budget towards a digital program. And third, I think this is very key, get a digital lens on your board and make sure your board understands the power of digital. In order to get digital, you've got to be digital. So get your board across the new technologies. Get them to build a website. It can be done really simply on the cloud. They'll then see how easy it is. And the satisfaction of having a board member who's not really done this before spin up their own website in an afternoon, maybe get someone to come in and show them how to do that. They will then get their hands dirty literally and go, wow, I've done that. You mean it's that easy? We can do that too. Simple things that can be done. And then you've got the buy-in from the top table, because if they can do it, they'll go home and tell their wife and children, you know what? I just made a cloud.
So, Andrew, in terms of digital disruption and digital transformation, where do you see the future from your perspective?
I think we'll see disruption beyond what we're seeing today in a number of areas. First of all, and it reflects on your industry, is recruitment. Recruitment has now become a function of marketing. No longer do candidates just look at the recruitment pages to see what it's like to work there. They will seek out employees like myself, like you, and see what it's really like to work there from my social profile. So without knowing it, your employees become advocates. I think that's another area where things will change. Secondly, disruptive technologies like blockchain, like IoT, like cloud that I mentioned will come into play. Blockchain, a lot of people associate that with Bitcoin and currency.
Yeah.
If you put a lens over that to do with a legal fraternity, you've then got things called smart contracts. So low-level conveyancing is then now done by AI or by blockchain, a distributed ledger.
Yeah.
That is a complete disruption. Internet of Things, once you instrument all your things. I had someone this morning talk to me about a client who was in a hire business. They hire out equipment. They don't know where everything is all the time, but with instrumentation you would know where it is and how close it is and those sort of things. And the other area, I think, is cultural change. You're going to have millennials come out now. I mean, Gen Y, the upper end of Gen Y, now 32, 33 years old, they have children. They're in their third or fourth cycle of their career. They are now impacting how business decisions are made. And anyone in the early part of their career won't join a company that doesn't have a digital agenda.
Yeah.
Because they will say, why would I want to join this company that my grandfather worked at?
Yes. And also you mentioned earlier on that change will accelerate because consumers are ready for it, but also the technology is there now. Technology is reliable.
And the third part of that is why disruption happens, is there are high profits to be made. So the barrier to entry in London around cabs were a 4-year knowledge and the cost of a tax and everything else. Now, if I am an accredited registered driver in London, and some countries there are less requirements, and I have an Uber app, I become a taxi driver.
Right.
That is massively removing the barriers to entry, but it's then unlocking significant high profits.
Andrew, that's been fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. Very much appreciate you coming out here today to talk about digital disruption. And if anybody wants to find out more about Andrew, the website is andrew.london.
Correct.
Nice and simple. Or find him on LinkedIn or, of course, on Twitter. And just in terms of the next digital transformation meeting, we have got another one in April, another one in June. And so we're going to be talking at the next event about robotics and business automation, which is a key element of digital transformation over the next few years. And then in June we're going to be talking about the Internet of Things, which of course, as Andrew's just alluded to, is it's going to take over many elements of our lives in the next few years. So thanks indeed for watching, and look forward to catching up with you soon.